main identity. And if you, again, the trajectory of this, the 7 million 16 to 24-year-olds that there will be in 2026, 6 years on, there'll be 1.5 million of them who would identify as bisexual. And at the end, 25%, 1 in 4 would be identifying as L, G, or B. 1 in 4. What's happening is they're starting to own an identity which is contrary to the way in which Jesus teaches of who we are and how we should live. This quadrupling of those that would identify as bisexual. I have these feelings in my mind. I have sexual attraction towards men. I have sexual attraction towards women. Therefore, my identity is bisexual. I'm going to have to embrace that and run with that. That's what's going on in the minds of our children. If I was that 13-year-old boy in my state school, and I was being encouraged in all of that, and pointed to the LGBT club, and I was having sexual attraction feelings for other boys in the school, what would that do for me? That would lead me into a particular direction. The word education is from the Latin root educare, which literally means to take by the hand and lead forward. That's what education means. To lead. It doesn't just mean passing on some information to somebody else. It means to take someone by the hand and take them somewhere. Whenever you're educating, you're leading children and young people somewhere. The education that our schools, our society, our media is giving to our children is leading them somewhere. When Jesus says, "Follow me," it's like there's a different commission, a new commission out there. Stonewall, if you don't know, is a very aggressive LGBT organisation. And it's like this is what's been taken on board by society and by many schools. You can see what I'm doing with this. Then Stonewall came to the schools and says, all authority to tell children who they are has been given to us. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations. This is happening all over the world. Of all nations, baptizing them into queer theory and gender ideology. If you don't know what those things are, great books on the table to kind of explore that. And teaching them to obey everything we are commanding you. Surely we'll be with you always. Unto the inclusive utopia for all people that we will create. That is the kind of hope and expectation of freedom that they believe they are bringing. It's a pseudo-religious hope. We have a better story.
Amen.
They're being discipled into this. And the results of a secularizing and sexualizing of education is this, that young people are increasingly not adopting the term heterosexual to describe themselves. There's an exponential rise in identification by teenagers as bisexual. They're now owning sexualized terminology, even where same-sex or gender dysphoric feelings may be fleeting. They own this identity from a young age during adolescence, and then they therefore own it into adult. They've been led somewhere, taken somewhere, the trajectory being set. Culture, media, schools, universities are increasingly influencing children and young people to owning these categories. And currently the aggressive relationship and sex education in many schools is fueling the fire, I would say, of the homosexualization of children. It's evil. Schools have been flooded with organisations on anti-bullying, equality, diversity. We're being inclusive. We're helping you fulfil your equality duties, schools. Being welcomed in to bring this agenda to children, and very young children. Teaching young minds who they are, where they should go. Next week, here in, well, it's in the middle of London, but there's a case that was based out of Croydon, a lady called Izzy Montague, who was a parent who we've been supporting for just in legal youth centre, and they were in the school. They decided they'd have one of these pride events, one of these diversity events, and they basically said all children had to join in with this pride event. This is about 5 or 5 years ago, and the leaders in that school clearly had an agenda to promote to children. And this parent, who's a Christian parent, said, no, I don't want you promoting this agenda to my child. I don't want them to be a part of this pride. That's what it is, a pride celebration. Isn't it interesting that the devil's sin was pride?
Yeah.
And now we celebrate it with children in schools. It's a battle. So this mother has said no. And because of that, the attitude of the school teachers changes completely to her and her family. And she goes into a meeting to kind of raise her concerns and complaints. And one of the senior leaders comes in with a t-shirt that says, why be racist, homophobic, transphobic when you could just stay quiet? On her t-shirt in this meeting to this precious African mother who's defending the faith that she wants to pass on to her children. And there's kind of further victimising things that happen, and she's been brave enough to say no, and I'm prepared to take the school to court over this. Very few are brave enough to do that, because it's years of waiting and processing, and who really wants to be in court about this kind of stuff? But you know, for such a time as this, Esther was raised up. For such a time as this mother is going to be going to court. Finally, it's got to the stage of being a court case, and that's next week, where we could get case law from this that says, no, it is totally inappropriate for a head teacher to enforce gay pride celebrations on their children. That would be a good one to win, I think you would agree. So please pray with us for that, around that case that we're fighting. But that's being multiplied up and down this country. And many Christians are very nervous about stepping out, speaking out, saying anything about it. Also, many churches have a blind spot in this area, I would say, about what is actually happening in our schools, with our children, with our young people. And because of this blind spot, because of a lack of courage and bravery to speak about it, this is what's been happening. We are in a battle. I was reading recently that about 3% of church resources go to the 25% that are under 18. It's interesting to think about your own church, and if you're a church leader, look at your own finances and think about that. That there might not be one somewhere else. And when you understand what's happening, I mean, this is great research from Care for the Family, which I'm going to comment on next. Can you put that slide up that's got faith in families on the side? Brilliant, yeah. You know, the majority of people who come to faith do so before the age of 19. Vast majority. Looking at Anglicans, still only 2% of anyone who was an Anglican actually made that decision to become an Anglican after the age of 19. All the Alpha courses that we do, and I've run probably a dozen Alpha courses to see people come to faith through those Alpha courses. All those things that churches are doing up and down the country, but still only a very small proportion of those Christians who are in churches today would say, actually, I made that step to become a Christian, to say I was a follower of Jesus Christ after the age of 19. We know that about 50% of children brought up in Christian homes still follow the faith as adults. Three there, it's fascinating that only 36% of Anglicans actually listed religious faith as something that they thought was even important to pass on to their children, whereas manners, oh yeah, of course, 90% said we should pass manners on, but maybe our faith, that's not such an important thing to pass on. We need to remember what Jesus said to us. The Great Commission, to pass on and disciple. Surely the first people we should be discipling are our own children. Train up a child in the way they should go, and when they aren't.
Well, we're not supposed to, naturally.
28% of church attending Christians report they do not mind whether or not their children share their beliefs. I think we're missing something. In this battle, a strategy is needed, individually with our own children, and corporately from the church. A strategy is needed. Jesus gave us a strategy, a plan of what to do, and when we understand it in its context, it includes young people, children, and our teaching of them. So what should we do? You'll find in your pack a book like that. Do see this in your pack. If it's not, then there's some spare copies on the desk. It's a book called Flourishing or Failing: Helps and Hindrances in Christian Parenting. Have we got any parents here? Give me a wave, parents. Excellent. Please do read this. It'll take less than an hour. Read it through. Think about what I'm saying there. Because there are things we can do to help. And it is important for us to recognise and spot what the hindrances are. How many teachers here? How many teachers do we have here? Praise God. Wonderful. A few teachers here.
One.
Excellent. Any church leaders here? A few people in church leadership as well. That's great. Any students here at school at the moment? Yeah. Guess a few of you there. Have a look at this book, because in pretty quick summary of points, it will highlight to you some of the key issues and what we can do about those key issues in our homes, in our churches. The Lord wants to give us a strategy, and it's based around His strategy of discipleship. Click. In it, you'll find a comment about pressed parents. We're too rushed, we're too hurried. We've taken on the attitude of the world with the speed at which we're trying to do everything. But we can become peaceful parents, bringing shalom into our homes, bringing shalom to our children, leading them to Jesus. There is toxic teaching out there which you're becoming aware of. But there is effective education that we can take our children to. We've been given responsibility. Who is the Lord going to come to and say, what did you do with those children again? Remember the parable of the talents? The gifts that I've given to you, what have you done with that? He's not going to ask the teachers, he's going to ask, first of all, he's going to ask the parents, isn't he? They're not your children. They're not my children. They're his children, first and foremost. Talks about the distracting devices and how you can monitor those mobiles effectively. Consumerist culture, but also how you can commentate on culture effectively with your children and young people. Really important to have the time to do that. Talk about casual congregations who have this blind spot around children and young people, don't invest in them. Yet there are churches that really think carefully about their children and their young people and how to train them in this world at this time, what they're faced with, so they can be those disciples of Jesus Christ. We talk about in there the different temptations that the enemy brings, but the grace of God that we can lean on and rely on. Surely I'm with you always, Jesus says, in this task of discipling children, young people. So just to break this up a moment, you've made friends with some people next to you, I hope. I'd just like you to say to them, is there anything that's struck you while I've been sharing? Is there anything new? I kind of do this stuff already, or I didn't realise that. If you could just express a comment to your neighbour, or something that struck you from what I've shared. Maybe already you're doing some kind of action. Okay, 2 minutes. Everyone stand up, stretch a little bit. 2 minutes, talk to the person next to you. Somebody might come to the toilet, that's fine.
Oh, we don't know.
2 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
What struck you?
That's right.
Any actions being stirred?
Oh,